Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this. Ms. Lauren here with a brand new literacy video. That's right, we get two this week. Now, today I want to review some of the concepts that we've been learning. Remember that silly poem from last week? The one that rhymed? Well, did you know that rhyming is actually a really good way to remember something important? For example, you know how the letter Q and the letter U usually appear together in a word? Well, something that helps me remember that is this rhyme. Q and U stick together like glue. Yeah, and then I can remember that when I have a Q in a word, usually a U is going to be right after that. Q and U stick together like glue. Kind of sing-song it too, if that helps. And rhyming can also help you remember rules that are not just spelling rules. So, for example, sometimes when you go outside, there can be plants, right? And if you touch a certain kind of plant, you might get really itchy. Those plants are called poison ivy, and sometimes they look a lot like other plants. So there's a rule. Leaflets of 3, let it be. If you remember that rhyme, you'll have a good time. Ha! Ha! That rhymed too. Ha! So, today I'm going to read you a story that incorporates rhyming and our special letter combination of the week, S and H. Now, what's that super cool fish we learned about whose name starts with sh? That's right, a shark. Today we're going to read about Clark the Shark. Hey, even the title of the story rhymes. I'm excited. Now, while we read the story, listen for how Clark uses rhymes to remember some of his school's rules. These might apply to you when you get to kindergarten in the fall, so listening ears on. And here we go. Clark the Shark, written by Bruce Hale, illustrated by Guy Francis. In all the wide blue seas, in all the wide blue world, the top school for fish was Theodore Roosterfish Elementary. And of all the fish at Theodore Roosterfish, the biggest and the strongest was Clark. Clark loved school, and he loved his teacher, Mrs. Inkydink. He loved to play upsy-downsy and spin-a-majig with his friends. Clark loved his life. "Awesome!" shouted Clark the Shark. "Less shouting, more reading," said Mrs. Inkydink. "Lunchtime is sweet!" yelled Clark the Shark. "Munch your own lunch," said his best friend Joey Mackerel. "Recess rocks!" bellowed Clark the Shark. "You are playing rough, Clark," cried the other kids. Yes, Clark loved his life with all of his sharky heart, but he loved everything way too much. He was too loud, he was too wild, he was just too much shark for the other fish to handle. After a while, no one would play with Clark. No one ate lunch with him. No one sat with him at circle time. Even his best friend, Joey Mackerel, said, "Cool your jets, Clark. You're making me crazy." One day, Clark asked Mrs. Inkydink, "What's wrong with everyone?" Mrs. Inkydink patted his fin. "Clark, sometimes you play too hard. You munch too hard, and gosh, you even help too hard." "But life is so exciting," said Clark. "There's a time and a place for everything," said Mrs. Inkydink. "And sometimes the rule is stay cool." At recess, Clark tried to stay cool, but he pushed the swing with too much zing. "Sorry," said Clark, "I forgot." "Yikes!" cried Joey Mackerel. At lunch, Clark tried to stay cool, but everything smelled so good that he munched a bunch of lunches. "Sorry," said Clark, "I forgot." "We're starving," said his friends. In class, Clark tried to stay cool, but a good book got him all shook up. Now, Clark, said Mrs. Inkydink, this isn't the time or the place. Tell me, what's the rule? Stay cool, said Clark. Hey, that rhymes, he cried. Then Clark got a big idea in his sharky head. Maybe if I make a rhyme, I'll remember every time, he thought. The next day, he put his plan to work. In class, when lessons got exciting, Clark wanted to bounce up out of his seat. Instead, he told himself, when teacher's talking, don't go walking. And what do you know? It worked! Attaboy, Clark, said Mrs. Inkydink. Clark smiled. Lessons are fun. At lunch, everything smelled so yummy. When Clark wanted to eat and never stop, he told himself, only munch your own lunch. And it worked again. Way to go, Clark, said his friends. Clark grinned. Lunch is fun. At playtime, Clark told himself, easy does it, that's the way. Then my friends will let me play. And playtime was fun. Once more, Clark loved his life. But then, a shadow fell across the playground. A ginormous shadow with tentacles galore. It's a new kid and he looks scary, cried Joey Mackerel. Swim for your lives! The squid squashed the slide and it snapped off the swings. Oops, my bad, said the new kid. Wait, said Clark. He just wants to play. Let's find a way. And he swam at the new kid with all his might. Clark played harder than he ever had before. Upsy-downsy and spin-em-a-jig. Why, he even made up a new game, Tail Wumpa-Lumpus. Wow, that was fun, said the new kid breathlessly, and he settled down. If you want to come to school, you've got to stay cool. That's right, Clark, said Mrs. Inkydink, and thanks for taking care of our new classmate, Sid the Squid. Hooray for Clark the Shark, everyone cheered. That night, Clark's mother asked, What did you learn at school, dear? There's a time and a place for everything, Clark said. Sometimes you stay cool. But sometimes a shark's gotta do what a shark's gotta do. The end. I loved that story so much. Did you see all of the ocean animals that we've been learning about? I saw a jellyfish, I saw squid, and I think an octopus too. Of course, a mackerel, that's a kind of fish. I also loved seeing how much Clark learned in that story. I think the big thing he learned was to respect his classmates, the classrooms, and the teacher by following the rules. And the way he remembered the rules was through rhyming. Well, that's it for me, everyone. I will see you in Zoom and in our videos this week. And I hope you have a day that's as awesome as you are. Bye-bye. Stay cool.